Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 SF Indie Fest. We're so excited to be joined here today for the filmmakers from our DIY Funnies program. I'm Sarah Marie Flores. I curate the shorts, and I'm so happy to be here. And keep in mind, this festival will be running February 5th through 15th, online in your computer screens, which is how our audience is experiencing this, as well as in person at the historic Roxy Theater in San Francisco. This program also does have an in-person screening, so if you can come out to San Francisco and come join us, we'd be so glad to have you. Just to kick things off, I would love to ask our filmmakers to introduce themselves, let us know what film they're here with, and what the genesis of the project was. So, like, how did this insanity end up in our eyeballs? And to start off, we're going to check in with Dimitri. Hi, Dimitri.
Hello, everyone. Dmitry Milkin, film is Good Guy with a Pun. Um, let's see, the genesis was kind of started out as a tale as old as time. I had this project earlier that was doing a really good festival run and got it to a handful of very influential people, and it grew and grew and grew. It was supposed to be a big feature. It was optioned by Condé Nast. We were negotiating with Mel Brooks, and it was supposed to be like this big, big thing. And then, it didn't happen. The pandemic completely killed it, and that's the way it went. And so I, licked my wounds and just kind of assessed what I had, what I can do. Um, I felt like I could do a good story, but I had absolutely no budget. And I really wanted to do something with the Bay. I'm not originally from here. I'm from the East Coast, but as soon as I moved here, it just kind of felt like this place was built for me. And so, through a series of coincidences, I was able to uh, meet this legendary local comedian, Michael Pritchard, who connected me with my local businesses and my community around in the North Bay and in the city. And I also met my lead, Julius Thomas III, who was at the time playing Hamilton in Hamilton, who, if any of you guys caught it, in San Francisco. He was amazing. And so all these people looked at the script, kind of looked at what I had, looked that I had absolutely no money, and said, we want to be a part of this. And at the same time, well, two things happened. One is I became a dad. My son August was born. Um, and the other is, as I was strolling him along on daily walks, I was listening to the Boy Meets World podcast, Pod Meets World, and I was kind of blown away by like just how real they were getting, and this sort of world of nostalgia, but brought to us in this social, technological, advanced way. And it just felt like there was a story there. So all those things came together, and I came up with this story and really brought it together on no money at all, just through generosity.
It's just so special. I love your approach too, that it's almost like you're watching like a social media feed.
Hmm.
It's just a really, really smart way to present this story. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having
And
me.
I will just give the audience a preface. While this is called DIY Funnies, and there's a lot of very funny things in this program, there's also a lot of heart and pathos and kind of observation about the world. I think all great comedy can really open this up. And I say this really to set up Adam and introduce Adam in saying that while your film is a bit of an outlier, sometimes we're just making things work. I also did think about The Great Dictator in the context of your film. So just to open up the way my weird brain works. Adam, welcome. Please tell us things.
Well, hi everybody. I'm excited to be here. My name is Adam Nevin. I'm a co-founder of Nevin Film alongside with my brother. And what did I do here? I wrote, I directed, edited, produced, basically everything under the sun of my film, Wisdom of the Crowd. And I guess the genesis of this film was I'd been working in tech and I got laid off. So that's pretty much how I felt. Kind of, I decided to just make a movie about it because I had nothing else to do. I took my severance package and just made a film.
Can you talk a little bit about like how you found the world of this story and decided that this was the story you wanted to tell?
Yeah, well, so I actually watched Metropolis, which is like it's a silent film, and it's like insane for I think anybody to sit down and watch a silent film because I mean there's a lot of great things, don't get me wrong, but you know, um, it's a lot, with the whole reading and everything. So, I figured if they're able to create kind of these incredible visuals 100 years ago, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to do it 100 years later, especially with just how cheap digital everything is.
Totally. Well, between the head and the hands, there is the heart. So I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Hi Preston, welcome. Please tell us about your film.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Preston Pimentel, and my film is One and Done Tour. Um, a lot of blood, sweat, heart, and soul went into this film. I really wanted to tell a story about like going after your dreams, despite the unknowing inevitability that could occur in your life. And that alongside of that on just like a creative level, on a logistical challenge level as a filmmaker, I really wanted to see what I could do because I've been creating on my own, making sketch comedy, YouTube videos, just really making a lot of stuff. But I really wanted to try to achieve this like movie quality. And this was my first time really getting like an actual budget and successfully like paying everyone who worked on it, which I'm quite proud of. Uh, Oh, and I forgot to mention that my roles with the film, sorry, let me jump back a little bit. I am the writer, the director, the actor, producer, the colorist, sound, all of post-production, and yeah. But I really wanted to kind of tell a story about love, and I wanted to tell a story about like dreams and aspirations, but I really wanted to challenge myself with the amount that I'm telling within such a short amount of time. I really wanted a short film to not just feel like this is a short film. I wanted it to feel like there's more after you watch it. Like I wanted to really capture a movie in such a short amount of time. It was my main goal trying to make it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a snapshot. I think every good short film feels like you could be walking into a much larger world, and you definitely achieve that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, Andrew. Welcome.
Hello. Um, yeah, my name is Andrew, and my film is Cousin Crumple Comes a Callin'. And I wrote, directed, I acted in it, and did animation and music as well, with the help of my wife, who did the cinematography. And I had my friend Phil as actor and also key grip on it. I conceived the idea maybe a year or two ago, and I wanted to do a piece about communication and also family, because both were fairly dysfunctional for me, communicating and family. And the format I chose is one I had already sort of established as kind of a children's program, but for adults with a surrealistic edge. And so, with that in place, I spent a year just feverishly thinking of nothing but doing this, which is, and maybe I expect all of you went through a similar process, which is very freeing in a way because all that matters is getting the thing done. So it's wonderful to now be able to share it.
We're so excited to have it here. I will say that Cousin Crumple and Art Show are like soul sisters. I want you all to become best friends
Oh, I think
because,
we already are. Yeah,
yeah, I love
we
it.
are. Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, just the artisanship of your world that you have built is just so incredibly fun. And when I was rewatching I think that this isn't it, so I apologize. I just watched every single movie in my programs in the past week. But there's like a part where you like say Frisco and you say, but I know she doesn't like that. And I was just like, there you go. Because like anyone who's going to be watching this that is actually from the Bay will be like, so I love the like little nuanced moment. It just makes me happy. So thank you so much for sharing and being here. Um, cool. Hi, Chelsea. Welcome. Tell us about your film.
Thank you so much for having me. It's amazing to be back at SF Indie Fest. My name's Chelsea Christer, and I wrote, directed, and edited Out for Delivery. And Out for Delivery was unfortunately loosely inspired by true events. I learned of someone who decided to pursue end of life medication, and since the pandemic, just like in the film, you can now get this shipped. In the true story, the shipping company lost the package completely. And that was just, it was the most horrible thing I've ever heard. And I laughed and I was like, where is that coming from? And I kind of realized it was this like frustration with convenience culture and just this digital era where we are making it so that we don't have to interact with humans anymore. And therefore, we no longer know how to like show humanity anymore. We simply just have this like want and desire, and we don't think about the in between. And so I took that guilty laugh and, like any good filmmaker, processed it by writing a screenplay. And this is the dark comedy that came out of it. But for me, also, like I'm as cynical as I can be. In spite of myself, still have some hope for humanity. So that's why I kind of decided to end it with a little bit of heart. And Yeah, this film came together in just the most magical of ways. I think I wrote it in July, and you know, Martin said yes to us in early August, and we spun up production in 9 days and shot 18 pages in 2 days for $0. and then,
Yeah.
um, and then I picture locked it, and submitted it just on like the night before the Sundance deadline, and then we got in. And it's been a crazy ride, and I'm very honored with the amazing run we've had, and I believe we're closing it out now at the Indie Fest, which is home turf for me. Um, so this has just been a dream, and yeah, thank you guys for having me.
I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you so much. And then Julian, I'm sorry, I'm totally mispronouncing your name.
It's Julian.
Julian, welcome, Julian.
Hi, how's
Tell
it?
us about your film.
Hi, so I'm Julian Chavarria, and my film is called Eternal Eclipse. I wrote, I directed it, I edited it, and kind of how this film, uh, how I came up with it was just on a random day. I was doodling a picture of the sun and moon, and I had just drawn them with faces and bodies, and it was just kind of like a sketch. But looking at them in this personified way made me think like a love story between the two would actually be kind of beautiful. And I thought, well, I don't know how I would like make that work because they can never meet. I guess other than an eclipse. And then the light bulb kind of went off in my head where I was like, that's the story right there. Um, and from then on, I expanded upon that by making it about this daydream. Well, because they can't be together, they imagine themselves as humans in this life together and what that would mean to to truly be together. Um, and so I gathered all of my best friends, and we shot this film like over I think maybe a few weeks. Um, and yeah, it was a beautiful process because I got to do it with my closest friends, and it was for me like kind of taking a magnifying glass and looking at kind of what it means to love and the sacrifices that we make for the people that we love.
I love that so much. Thank you. And I just also, it's so special how handmade your film feels. And it's not a surprise that it started with a drawing because there's just this artisanship to it that I just think is really special in your visual language of the film. So
Oh,
thank you so much.
thank you.
Okie dokie. So Skinner and Alan, I'll let you two pick who you want to chat first. You guys can have a digital fight out over it. But
You want to go first, Alan?
Yeah, I'll go
Yeah.
first.
So I used to work at this company called Super Deluxe, and we made short form content for the internet. And one of the first assignments they had me do was they sent me to the Bay Area, and I filmed with Skinner, uh, painting this really cool painting, and we became friends. And while I was there filming him, we talked about ideas for TV shows we'd love to do one day. And then a few months later, I actually ended up pitching a show to Super Deluxe. They greenlit it. Skinner and I made 6 episodes of this show called Drawing with Skinner at Super Deluxe. And then Super Deluxe folded at some point, like the entire company got shut down. We all got laid off. But Skinner and I had talked about like retooling the idea and sort of making a different kind of show with him making art. So we don't have like the original show, we shot it on a sound stage with a set. We didn't have access to any of those resources. So we just shot Skinner in front of a green screen painting and just riffing and talking the whole time. And then we just cut it together in the most insane way possible. And then these guys at this company called Etch Film, they liked it was essentially a pilot, and they gave us money to make 10 more episodes of this weird, crazy thing we had made.
Yeah, it's it was like a little bit like during the pandemic we filmed it and it was the pilot, but the theme, because each episode kind of has like a theme, and the theme was was death. And but the way that I kind of see it is like, what if an artist actually, because artists are essentially, we really struggle in this culture in a way, I find, and we're kind of like trying to be our creative self, but then also there's like an approval junkiness to it, where you're just like, see what I'm doing? And this is sort of like, what happens if an artist gets what they want, but it's truly like the worst possible like version of that.
Yeah.
Like if you get, it's like an inverted Pee-wee's Playhouse where it's like, what if it was just a nightmare, and so it kind of like Spinal Tap. It's like a Spinal Tap. Anyways, that's my contribution to the conversation.
Can you guys talk a little bit about just that like choice for framing a little bit deeper? I just love how it feels like Skinner's like a captive prisoner, which I think is how it can feel sometimes as a working artist.
Yeah.
Like you're like, dance, monkey, dance. Like, what was that thought process like?
Well, we Skinner was like, what if it took place in outer space? And I knew we didn't really have the ability to bring on like guests. So I was like, okay, he's in outer space, he's trapped there, he's like losing his mind while doing a show about art, but like who knows who's even watching this show is, I guess, the idea.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very like, there's a sort of premise, but it's also like, what the hell is this? Like my initial idea was like, what if somebody like an artist was like, I want to have a show and I want to be like Bob Ross, and then like a space demon pulls an artist from their normal life, puts them in space, and is like, now make a show for some kids, make a show for my kids, because I'm kind of sick of taking care of them. You can babysit them and do this. So it's sort of this loose, like, wait, what's going on? Is this a show? Is this guy just going nuts? Like, what is this? Yeah.
The slow descent into madness
Yeah.
through captive art creation. I love it. Thank you guys so much. Dimitri, come back to you.
Unmute.
I feel like something that's so special about the story that you tell is how unexpected your conclusion is.
Hmm.
Like, can you walk us through just the thought process of like building out this story when you're talking about these like aspirations of like re-entry into fame, like social clout, and then like really having this kind of emotional parental gut punch?
Mm. I mean, the whole thing is kind of like an exploration of optimism in a pessimistic world. Um, and a lot of it, especially on social media, is very performative. Like everyone is like, you think of any single influencer video you've ever seen, the cliche is like, hey fam, hey guys, like everyone's like your best friend the second that like the ring light hits them. And everything is just blessed and just positive. But, we all know it can be very toxic. And so I wanted to show when the performance stops, can you really be genuinely optimistic and positive, and what that looks like, and when there are actual stakes, and when all comes to a head when Billy, the main character, gets the opportunity he's always wanted, but he has to choose whether he wants to get that, or he needs to, or he's able to help his daughter in the first crisis that she has, that he's very uniquely qualified to help her through. And so his catchphrase has always been, keep it positive, KIP, but that's very performative. It's very sterile, kind of like a 90s, like a Full House, very 90s sitcom-y. And so when he tells his daughter that he has, kind of a new catchphrase that he likes to tell himself quietly, but that is going to help her, and it's don't ever let the motherfuckers keep you down. It's a lot more real. It's still completely optimistic and positive, but it's real, and it's just whatever happens, you can't control it, and but you keep moving and you keep your head up. Um, and that's basically what I was feeling at the time. Like I said before, I had this big opportunity I thought was going to be my big break, and it fell apart, and I was pretty depressed at the time. Um, but I had to have this mantra to keep me through and kind of pick myself up and just be like, I'm a storyteller. It's what I do. So money or, famous actors or whatever it is that people think that they need to make it, that to get eyeballs on it. You don't. You need to have heart. You need to have a genuine message that transcends a screen or your phone, and you tell your story, and you tell it with truth and emotion, and then it'll resonate with them if you do it the right way.
That's a really great outlook, especially for those of us that work on the like Hollywood commercial side.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of motherfuckers in Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
and we know this. There's a lot of people waiting to say no. So like
Yeah.
finding a way to like navigate that and stay true to yourself is so important.
And I
So
think
thank you
that's
for
actually
sharing.
I'll close on this. Like that's the thing that I kept on telling myself with, if if all it takes for you to not do what you are meant to do is for someone to tell you no, then that you're not meant to do it. Then do
Yeah,
something else.
exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Adam. I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about just like the world building within your story. Like, I mean, obviously, it's not the hugest reach given that we are kind of living during the rise of a fascist dictator. Um, but like, what was your approach? Like, how much were you grabbing from like what our world is right now and like from historical texts? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, so well, I just been researching, just watching, just going down rabbit holes of just iceberg videos on YouTube. I don't know if you guys ever sat down and watched those, but they're incredible. Honestly, I love them. There's so much information there. And I think something that stood out like to me was I believe it was the incident that started the Vietnam War. It was the Tolkien incident, I believe is what it's called. But it was kind of like this miscommunication, and it's like obviously, I mean, I wasn't alive when all that happened, so I have to kind of just look at it from a historical kind of context. But it was more or less the first initial idea for this film really just came from that kind of idea of like a message being sanitized and sanitized over and over and over again. And I think especially with social media, Twitter, everything like that. I think that's very much the case. There's people just making insane claims, and then some person will read it and call it absolute truth. So I don't know. To me, I found that it was a bit interesting, and it kind of just became like a timeless thing. Funny enough, my
Yeah.
dad was telling me he was making connections from, I made this movie a year ago, so I had no idea what was going to happen, a year in the future. But my dad was making connections between this and the whole Venezuela situation that's unfortunately
Mm-hmm.
going on. And, I was amazed. I was like, I wrote this a year ago. If you asked me about Venezuela a year ago, I wouldn't be able to tell you anything about that place, and unfortunately, it's like a timeless kind of thing where, the history just repeats itself.
That's true. I think you capture that moment in a really astute way. So thank you so much for speaking to that.
Thank you.
Okay, Preston, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about what your production was like, especially kind of working through like live performance versus our more dramatic elements. You know, you're going between these modes of like performing for the stage and then also working with actors in this other realm. What was that like for you, and what was it like working with the actors?
Yeah, that was challenging to capture. I loved, but I loved it. I really liked, the anticipation, specifically for my character, Wyatt, the anticipation of like capturing that feeling of he's about to go on stage, and then um, also working alongside my other friends, my co-stars and everything, just trying to balance like, hey, we're backstage right now. We're not putting on the comedian face where we're just kind of uh can be real. You can cut the bullshit with each other a little bit, just like, hey, pull yourself together. We're gonna go on stage. We're doing this. And then that lax and comfortability, the like you can see it in the film. There's a moment when my character's walking backstage and gets just right before the red curtain, has the microphone in his hand. He looks to Tiffany and they're just having like a little moment. And then the second the curtains open, the smile comes on and then he walks out on stage. Um, Obviously he's still happy to be doing it. It's like it's what he wants to be doing, but there is that like you're yourself and more. Kind of similar to what like Dimitri was saying about the influencers and stuff, but on a live setting, there is a little bit more of a hey everyone, how's everyone doing? Like grabbing the audience and like pulling them all together. And so the that was a fun balancing line to one, not only act as, but also to direct and create the atmosphere. Because in a live show, you're creating it, but as I'm directing it, I'm kind of having to carefully design the atmosphere of my character's interaction with the audience and making sure he's obviously not like killing it as a comedian right there right out the front. There are little haha moments, but then you don't want him to feel like is he actually a comedian? Like you need
Yeah.
to balance the show his ability that he is good at what he does, but he's just warming into it. So that
Mm-hmm.
was it's funny. I've never actually thought about that. I really like that question. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's always just like such a interesting kind of thing to think about how we present ourselves and how people are presented like versus like being on the stage or just being yourself and how that registers as an actor. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, Andrew, I think when I first watched your film, my note was George Kuchar meets Wonder Chosen, which uh for all those that do know, like I find that to be quite the compliment. I just really loved it. I really loved your approach to like creature creation, animation, and world building. And so I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about just your ideas behind your production design and your creatures and the art that goes into it.
Yeah, well, that's funny you mentioned George. I knew George and I know Mike. And it was from them that I picked up what I considered to be the rudiments of filmmaking. And then the one of the actors in the film, John Skip, that plays Krusty Ratbone, he was an experienced filmmaker. And I asked him, was this similar to other, shoots you've done? He said, no, not at all. And I had based it all on the way Mike works and George, which was pretty much improvisational. I had a loose storyboard, but the props were the thing that we all kind of interacted with and transported ourselves with. And those were largely inspired by Sid and Marty Krofft, if any of you recollect the 70s, and Acid. There were some programs, HR Prof and stuff, Lidsville, especially giant hats, and I really ran with the giant hat theme. I think I
Well,
answered your question.
yeah, it's quite striking and remarkable, like that just the canvas that you create, like just really makes you lean in. And for those that are into like DIY and like Bay Area film lore, it just felt really special, like it was tailor made for me. So thank you.
Great.
Awesome. Chelsea, I'm gonna start off by saying a thing, and that is programming is hard. A lot of the times when you're watching films, you're often confronted with a single person in a room by themselves. And it can be very easy to disconnect uh, without the right nuance. And I just feel like after I saw this film last year, I stopped doing my stump speech, which is like you need to have people in the world and in movement. Because that first half of your film, when you're grounded in this room, you're so talented in your ability to maintain engagement and like create this world, even though it feels really insular. There's a lot of tension that you're experiencing through the way your actor is performing and through just the way that you're setting up the space. And so I was hoping you could talk a bit about just like your approach to working with your actor and having her really embody this sense of like sorrow and resignation, and how that really like moves in this beautiful register towards her like going towards the outside and like realizing that her objective is going to be fulfilled.
Thank you so much. That's one of the better questions I've had. So thank you. Well, in terms of my actor Deanna, um, I mean I wrote the part for Deanna. We've been like writing partners for a little while. We've been sort of developing a feature and just like have worked together for a few years now. And you know, a lot of stuff was kind of false starts, and so I was like, you know what, I just need to write something for you that I know will embrace all your sensibilities, which is like they're an incredible actor and dramatic actor, but also an incredible physical comedy performer. And so I know when I wrote this, as inspired as I was by the kind of scale of what the story was, I knew what my limitations were. You know, I was like, I've got $0 and I have my shitty LA apartment, you know, and so I was like, how can I tell this story in a way that lets Deanna do what Deanna does, but also is within our budgetary limitations, but also embraces loneliness in a way. You know, I wanted this character to be alone, and not just because I couldn't afford more actors, but largely because I think when when you don't have human connection, like what are you like? I understand, like it's so lonely. Like the whole point of being alive is to be with fellow humans and connecting and iterating and growing and like having that community. And so to have her and this character like experience loneliness, we really worked to make the space feel like a very comfortable prison in a way, you know, as it was like because that's what this apartment is anyway. But I worked with my DP, having a location that you live in, you know, we actually were able to come here and just say, how do we shoot this place and keep it interesting, you know? And so when it came to the shot design and construction, it was, you know, there's very little that we could do, but there was a lot that we could do to express just like the amount of power she did or didn't have at any given moment, but also like where we could place the camera near, far, you know, what angles that could like make the space feel a little bit more diverse than what it was while still showing that like cage that she was in, you know, and make it feel like just this one person's home. So, yeah. And a
Yes.
lot of credit to Deanna and a lot of credit to Gavin, my DP, who, you know, was, I mean, we literally spent a full day in here just with, you know, okay, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to do here. And, you know, what can we do where we could actually put a camera someplace in this apartment. So
Yes, I love it. And I think it really shows that like you're very thoughtful in that visual language. So thank you so much. Julian, hello. I was hoping that you could talk to us just about your editing process because I think one of the things I love so much about your film is that it feels almost like a collage in a really special way. Can you walk us through what that was like for you?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think I approached the editing process almost similarly to kind of how I thought about writing it. And when I wrote it at the time, I was reading a lot of poetry. I was writing a lot of my own poetry, and so I kind of wanted the script to resemble that in a way. And in turn, I kind of wanted the editing and the pacing to resemble that in the way it alternates lines of dialogue and the shots, um, alternating between the sun and the moon. Um, and I remember, yeah, editing was it was uh it was very tedious because I was getting really like nitpicky about like which frames I was cutting on and just trying to get that right pacing and because I wanted the film itself to feel kind of slow and patient and tender and to resemble the love between the sun and the moon and kind of how they felt about each other similarly but both in their own unique kind of ways at the same time. Um, and so yeah, I mean, I had one of my friends. He was my second eyes when I would be like in the computer lab at my school for like 10, 12 hours, sometimes like every day, just like staring at it. And I'd be like, okay, like I've looked at this for so long. Um, what do you see that maybe I'm not seeing? And he'd be like, well, maybe you're, lingering a little too long here, or maybe you can extend this by just like a frame or two. And so, yeah, there was like a lot of hours spent. I remember just trying to get that pacing right, and there were certain like transitions between scenes that I remember like being quite difficult, and sometimes it was just like where the music came in, um, or just like J or L cutting. I'm like, oh, that solved everything. And I spent like the past like hour looking at this trying
Yeah.
to figure out what was wrong with it. Um, so yeah, sometimes it was as simple as just like audio and music. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, it was to me like when I again like at the time I was writing a lot of my own poetry, and so I wanted Eternal Eclipse in a way to kind of be like this visual poem, love story.
Very much so is. Yeah. Very lyrical. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Skinner and Alan, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about your collaboration and how much of art show is like pre-planned versus like riffing while you're on set. Like, how do you decide what's gonna like what elements are gonna come in post? Like, are you deciding this in advance? Are you being playful and then figuring it out on the back end? Like, what was that like for you guys?
Um, well, like for each episode, we would come up with a theme for the episode, and then I would write down like 4 or 5 gags that I definitely want to like incorporate. And then maybe I'll write an intro and a few other jokes that may or may not make any sense. And then but then Skinner, when he's painting, he just kind of riffs off the top of his head whatever comes to him in relation to the theme and what the image is that he's painting. But then we'll get to a point where I'll be like, oh, this is a perfect spot to segue into that gag that I thought of. And I'll be like, okay, Skinner, now like mention something that can help us get into that gag. And then you'll do that. And um, the segment with the space cowboy, that was always a thing we definitely knew we wanted on the show on every episode. And yeah, just finding ways to get in and out of those moments. And but a lot of it is just Skinner riffing,
Yeah,
which makes the editing process really interesting. It's like
I
taking
bet.
2 hours worth of Skinner talking and condensing it into a 15-minute thing, which is challenging but fun.
sorry about that.
No, it's good.
Do
That's
you like the
brutal.
process, Skinner? Is it
Yeah,
fun?
I mean, I think the process is fun. I think that there's a lot of the show that's very, it's like, all right, let's have some, like, a little bit of faith and trust that we're gonna just do what we're gonna do. You know, it's not, there's not like an intense level of I don't know, control and you know, because like making filmmaking requires an insane amount of, you know, organization and focus, and you know, it's very linear and stuff, you know, if you're, I guess if you're professional, I don't know. But for us, there's a lot of structure, but there's a lot of organic space for anything to happen. And then even while we're filming, there's also like a lot of like, oh wait, let's do this. Okay, that will be cool. Let's do this thing, you know? So I think that that's sort of the playground part of it for me. And then writing writing the Space Cowboys dialogue for me is very fun because it's like what he's saying is actually pretty smart, but he's just a super drunk alien on the moon. And so it's, I don't know, I just sort of I guess there's like a mischievous sort of playful nihilism that comes in sometimes, because I think that, like, honestly, being a creative person in a world, if you're, or if you're just sensitive, I think, or if you're kind of, you know, empathetic or compassionate, you have to get good at some gallows humor in order to navigate this stuff, because it's really brutal. It's really brutal
Yeah.
to just behold everything. And so that's what I like to do, is mix this sort of humorous, like, fun ridiculousness, but also everything is really hard and weird. And so we have to like have a little grace and some humor, and be sweet. We have to be sweetie pies, you know, and be a
Aw.
neuro and have some neuroplasticity, for God's sake.
It seems incredibly fun. I will just attest from my own personal experience, like having creative partners like Etch definitely helps because
Mhm.
people can be controlling at times, and like having EPs or whatever their title is on this one, you have people who are artists and artists forward just really, really helps in that process. So,
Yeah, it's nice to have
uh,
somebody kind of believe in you, and then you actually
yeah,
just do what you do, instead of you're doing like a version of what somebody else kind of wants, but they don't totally know, but they have notes, and it's
yeah.
just, you just get out of here. It's like you go micromanage a plumber when they're plumbing your toilet or whatever. You know, it's just relax, man.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. The O-ring is on wrong, guy. The O-ring is on wrong. Sick. Well, that's all the time we have today, but I'm so excited to have you all here. I'm very excited to see you in San Francisco in a few weeks. For those of you that can join, and if you're watching this at home, you should probably come to the screening in San Francisco also, because it's going to be pretty freaking fun. Okay, bye bye.